Hello, 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 and welcome to this zone, which is going to be my podcast, but I'm about to bring you a beautiful lady. In just a moment, we are going to go live. And for those of you who don't know me, my name is Terry Messenger, and this is going to go to my podcast, Terry Messenger's Genius Zone. So with all of that, I have a beautiful lady and she is going to come on. She's going to add value. She is going to have a beautiful conversation with me about new people that want to launch their business independently, people that want to start a new career. And with no further ado, I'm about to bring on the beautiful, the wonderful, the amazing Jess. And and there she is. Hello, hello.
Hi Terry, how are you? Can you hear me okay?
Certainly can. I certainly can.
That's another comment on the chat as well. Yeah, that's why it's really difficult to pick up everything that you're saying, Terry. So let's try this. Let's try this now. Can you hear me better? Does it change anything?
Sally, is that better? It definitely is. You got it. Okay, so fantastic. So we're all good now. So, all right. So basically, start from the beginning so there's no distraction. So basically, I'm an old hat at this, so it's, but every time you can almost guarantee that you're going to get some kind of an interference. But now that we've got a very clear sound, we've worked it all out. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to Terry Messenger's Zone of Genius. So this is where we love to interview coaches and find out and dig deep. What is the Zone of Genius? So tell me, what was it that, you know, because I know people want to hear what you said, but there was a terrible echo in the background there. So what was it that actually was that big moment where you just click, I'm quitting what I'm doing and I'm starting again?
Yeah, well, as I go back to the story that I was telling before, it was exactly that moment in which I found myself literally in the living room of my apartment, staring at the ceiling and wondering, now what? It was that big question, now what? It's like finding myself after building everything that I wanted to build, or that I thought I wanted to build, and that's, you know, feeling that I have done everything like you're supposed to do things, because that's what people tell you, that's what society tells you, that's what people are expecting for you to do. And I had done everything by the book, and finding myself feeling that this is not enough, or this is not it. And in that moment, but literally, I'm not joking, I was in my living room, staring at the ceiling, like wondering, like as if I was expecting some sort of answer in that moment. It's like, okay, I have no idea what went wrong, because I'm supposed to be happy. And I think that was the actual moment in which I said, okay, there is something that I'm not seeing, and there is something that I need to change. And if for those of you who couldn't hear the story before, I had my own life. I've studied, I've prepared myself a lot. I studied economics, I work on it, didn't really feel right. I went on doing consulting, I studied marketing, didn't feel right. So I built a profile very in business related. And it was not because of the sake of being in a business, except for what I do today, but it was more related to working directly with people, what was actually what I wanted to do. So it was in that moment when I actually took I would say, the courage to just simply quit what I was doing and quit a full-time job and decided to actually do my coaching certification and work with actual people who struggle like everybody, like we all do.
Wow. Wow. I'm seeing this image in my mind. This is like basically of a clinical hypnotherapist, right? And I'm seeing you on a boat and I'm seeing you kind of like gazing up at the ceiling in wonder and awe. Like, what is this all about? You've got an MBA, you're an intelligent woman. You know, it seems like you're young, you've got the world at your feet, but you knew it's almost like destiny comes knocking. And when destiny comes knocking, it comes knocking in ways that so many people think their life is just, you know, depressing or it's sad or it's unfulfilled. But sometimes when destiny is knocking, it's those moments when you're staring at the ceiling, like Jessica.
Yeah.
That is like a big wake up. Hey, don't you know you have this huge, massive life calling to help people in their careers. So tell me, Jessica, who are the people that you feel really the most called to help?
I would say naturally the people who have been through something related. So as I was telling you before, I'm from Venezuela. I lived in France. Now I'm living in Spain. So I'm not the only one, and I'm not close to be the last person to do this. So people who go through a lot of changes, like physical places or expatriations, immigrants, for instance, I get to work a lot with people who have done this type of changes. And naturally, entrepreneurs, the fact that I always wanted to be independent and I always wanted to do something on my own. And that, I think that what was ticking back then when I thought I was building everything correctly. There was something that, no, this is not it. It's something else. And naturally, I had I'm called by people who also want to dare to do something that is really what they want to do, and mostly in a entrepreneurial path or becoming independent. So this is mostly what I get to help the most. I naturally also help people who are just simply wondering how to do more in their careers, like how to evolve in their careers, or feeling that they are naturally stuck. But it turns out that every time I help people in the last situation, there is something more. There is that little thing that is hidden, and usually we end up changing because it's what is inside, right? So when we're working as, you know how it is, when we work as a coach, you end up triggering something, you end up extracting something or helping the person extract something that either I didn't want to see it, or I don't want to hear it, I don't want to be. Yeah, but when you are in the process of coaching, you get to see what you don't want to see, what you're so afraid of seeing. So we end up creating career paths completely different, or I end up even seeing beautiful transformations. I've helped people. I have at least a couple of people in my mind right now as people who've been through burnouts, difficult situation when they were physically ill because of the jobs they were doing, and they had to actually stop that. And they were engineers or they were big marketing directors, and they changed to become either healers or yoga structures or meditation guides or anything like that, or something like that. And it's something that it doesn't have anything to do with one thing with the other, is what people normally think. That's not it. It doesn't have anything to do with that. It's just about extracting who you really are and understanding that everything that you've done in the past, even though it's a technical thing, scientific thing, or it doesn't really have anything to do with what you will be doing next, you needed that in order to create the change, in order to create the transformation, to become your true self. And those transformations, I can tell you, are my favorite ones. It's really exciting.
Yeah, so when you talk transformation, so when you think of a person that you've actually helped move and really helped transform their life and made an incredible difference. What was their situation? Obviously, without breaking confidentialities and saying anyone's name, but can you describe the typical person, what they've been through, what they're going through, and what you actually did that really brought that joy to you and just saw this incredible transformation happening?
Well, let me see the situation in which they are to make them call a coach. It can be different. It can be something really urgent, like right now I really need to change. I feel it. I know it. It's sort of like the call that I have myself. I say, okay, yeah, I know there's something else I need to do. It's just that I have no idea how to do it, and I have no idea what that is. That happens a lot. And the other thing is just, it's like a natural path, I would say. Probably people just change, they move, they see that there is an opportunity that has been developing. It's more like the natural next step. I find myself changing. I was laid off, I changed countries, I've been expatriated. Is the time for me to think about a change? Now, depending obviously on the situation of the person, I would say the approach, maybe not, the approach doesn't really change in the sense that we always go back to the basic. I always like to work with what worked for me, which is reconnecting with yourself. And it's actually the essence of everything in coaching, right? So that is, I would say that is the same thing. What could change is the way we work towards those answers, okay? Depending on the urgency of the person, or how, I would say, how ready they are to accept a new path. Because not everybody's ready to change immediately. Some people are like this and they are willing to do everything. They're willing to try and make mistakes and go over things they didn't dare to go before. Others are more like, you know what, I'm afraid of making a mistake, or I'm afraid of, why if I try it? This is something that happens a lot. It's like, why if I try to change and it doesn't work? What if we do all this work, internal work, and so insightful work, and at the end I make a decision that doesn't, I still feel the same? It happens a lot. So
it's so big, it's so huge. And Napoleon called that, you know, the 6 fears: the fear of failure, the fear of success, fear of being ridiculed, the fear of judgment,
rejection, judgment, exactly. So and I've come to realize that most of the time is, well, at least in my experience, most of the time is the fear of success that is stronger than the fear of failure. This is the most common one. It's like, what do I do next? What happens when I succeed? And I get a lot of people telling me, what if I achieve my goal? Then what's next? Well, then you have another goal. Then you keep growing. Then you keep expanding. You enjoy, you celebrate. It's fine. It's like,
have you ever done quantum jumping?
Yeah, wonderful programs. Yeah.
So when you get someone to quantum jump, as you know, you're getting them to kind of paint a picture, and they're kind of, so many people are so focused on the future. This is what I find as a trainer. You know, people are so focused on, oh, you know, I really want this one day, and I want to have this, and I want to be rich, and I'd love to drive this car. But what about the here and now? So when you're quantum jumping, what you're doing is, and I'm speaking to the audience here because there's a lot of people that don't even know what
quantum jumping is,
jumping or quantum leaping means. But what it actually means is it's when you're collapsing time. So there is no time. So while the person is dreaming of that Caribbean holiday or that Mercedes convertible and that beautiful family and having all the wealth, the riches, and being a successful coach, what it's really about, and you've got to ask yourself this question, is what is that going to feel like? Like, how is that going to be resonating in your cells of your body? So when you jump, and this leads me back to what Jessica was just saying, where people fail forward, and they're, you know, that's easier to do than actually the fear of success. And people go, well, what's next? You know, what's going to be for me next if I succeed? Well, this is what's next. Do you want to know? This is what's next. You merge into that place and space of time that you want to be in, and you feel it in every core cell of your body. And while you're in that time zone where you've collapsed time, and you could be in 2023, 2025, or even 2022, you can be anywhere, right, in this quantum zone. And you're asking yourself, now that I've got all these things, now that I am who I am, now that I be who I be, what is my next goal? So from where they are in the future, quantum, they're then using their supernatural powers, if you like, their super mind, to then envisage the next step.
The next step, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think what is wonderful about quantum jumping, it really gets to your neurology and your patterns, because what happens is, and I've seen this in many situations of change, when people picture this wonderful image of how they want to live, but they have habits that are not in alignment with the new type of life they want to live, or the person that they say they want to become. And it's really amazing when you do exercises like quantum jumping, when you actually, what you say is like the time collapses, there's nothing that prevents the person to actually personalize this new image, and that necessarily creates new patterns, new neuronal patterns, that makes the person even change certain habits that are in let's say in contradiction with what they want to become or who they want to become. And it's really impressive, because some of these changes happen really rapidly. It's like when people want to make more money, and all of a sudden they realize, well, but I spend a lot in things that are not necessary, or I realize that I'm not really investing in the future, or I realize that I'm not investing in myself. That happens a lot as well. So it's really well, I've done quantum jumping exercises for myself, and I've seen the change, the awareness. I would say I've seen the awareness that it creates, that leads you to change also some of the habits and patterns that you normally do. So really, for the audience here who haven't tried any quantum jumping exercises, is a great experience, and I would say a life-changing experience as well. Thank you for bringing it up.
Yes, it's amazing. It's very, very exciting when you know how to use your superconscious. So when you're meeting a coach, you know, what you can expect is to achieve great things at the speed of light. So rather than it taking you, like I often say to people, you know, when they come into this kind of a vortex, quite often people, you know, you'll find that your niche are going to be a specific kind of person. So I've heard you say, you know, people that are going from, you know, they're moving countries. So immigrants that are finding themselves, you know, they're moving to different parts of the world, and they're really rediscovering. And I know that when I'm really tapping into my own niche, and when I started out, because it was in clinic, I didn't really know much about niches, to be honest with you. I just knew that when I was healing trauma, and when people were releasing and energetically healing themselves, all of a sudden they would come into their own. All of a sudden they would grow a spine, they would have a backbone, they would find their voice, it would activate their success. And then, you know, like, you know, predominantly the masculine and the feminine energy, the man would, you know, that they would rise up in their money, and they would just like fire forward. And this is before becoming an online coach, of course. And I'm going, what is it with these men that soon as they release and unplug themselves, they suddenly find themselves wealthy. They move into this whole new code of wealth because they kind of lost the small man syndrome. And it was about finding their voice. So I noticed this. It was a bit of a kind of a like case studies almost that I was watching. And I'd noticed that, you know, the women would come in and they'd say, you know, I've made this decision. I've decided to stand my ground. They'd make massive decisions that they never even spoke to me about. And then they'd come in and they'd announce it. And I'd be like, and they'd say to me, you are never going to believe this. And I'm like, I mean, all. You know, I've heard of women who had walked out of their marriages, women who had come back to their marriages, women who had made a stand, drew a line in the sand and said, this is who I am, and suddenly built these, and then they activated their success. So, you know, I wonder what it is like with people that are migrating, and maybe you would have more insight on this. Like if you think of your classic dream client that perhaps is feeling a little bit lost, that's really wanting to change careers, and maybe they have changed countries or changed cities. What are their biggest battles? What are their main struggles, Jessica?
I would say the main struggle when you're feeling lost, especially when you're changing countries, it has to do with the absence of something. You're missing your family, you're missing your weather, you're missing your food, you're missing your home, you're missing your street, you're missing your bakery, you're missing all of the things that are part of the habits that you have, and we all have as human beings, and that somehow they create our center and our safe space. So that's why, if this is a common thing, whenever you leave physically, you change your countries. Besides, a lot of people focus on the cultural change, and I'm also an intercultural trainer, so I know all the theories that are behind changing cultures. But beyond understanding what's a new culture about, and what are the new codes, and what are the new patterns, and how do I adapt, you have to remember that we are all human beings and we all need the center, and you need to create that new safe space again in that new place. And that is what I figure people suffer the most, especially when they want to start over, they want to start a new career, they want to start as entrepreneurs. You have to be, is what I like to say to my clients, you have to be available emotionally, physically to do something. And if emotionally you're still tied to certain things, you're still missing certain things, it's not wrong to miss something. It's not wrong to be sad about something, but you have to recreate that center. And you have to recreate that safe space, which is what will help you build what is required to be emotionally available to do something. A lot of people just focus a lot on actionable things. I need to do this, I need to contact this person, I need to do the other thing. But then internally, it's like a time bomb that is being created. And that creates a lot of struggle. And
that's incredible.
Yeah, and the other thing I would like to add.
I was going to say, pick up on something on that, because there's some gold there, and I was really curious. You said that people leave their hometown, they leave their place of security, they leave their place of comfort, so they move away from their family, and then they've got to reconnect with it. So they've got to refine that. Can I ask you, what do you think the purpose is that people do make that decision to leave and go elsewhere?
There could be many reasons there, Terry. People leave, I would say there's a typical reason, spouses and you know, my husband got a different job in a different country. That's what we call expatriation. And that comes with several conditions. It could be for family reasons. I fell in love with somebody who lives in another country, and that's more a personal reason, positive, constructive reason to leave to another country. And we can go all the way to reasons like strong, difficult reasons, like we're all seeing them right now, there is a war in my country, there is a political and economic situation in my country that it makes it unbearable and not possible for me to stay here. So the conditions that I'm telling you here, they are extreme, okay? So when you live as an expatriate, you live with comfort. You have a company paying for certain conditions that you will have in the new place. They are paying expenses and everything. And yet you still have to go through your own transition. You still have your own suffering. When you leave because your country doesn't really give you that safe space that we're talking about, and you have to look for another place and bet on a different option because you think that country is going to give you new opportunities, you're still betting on something, but there's still no safety space there, right? So there are many reasons, there are many things that trigger that move. But what I know that is common in all of these things, we've been talking about subconscious mind and subconscious neural paths and everything. So what is common about this is that whether you're conscious or not, your subconscious know that the best thing you did was to move, to change, to start something new. And to me, that's what is important to always remember, regardless of the situation or the conditions in which you change. Because at the end, as human beings, we need to trust that instinct. And more than our instinct is to trust the resources that we have internally in a subconscious mind, because if we make that decision, at the end, what makes everything happen is the power of decision. You can make plans, you can have ideas, you can dream about many things, but what makes things happen and what triggers and actually makes change happen is the power of decision. It's a decision we make that actually creates an action and an intention behind that action at the end. And regardless of the situation or the condition in which people live, there's a decision to be made. And
yes,
it's that to what we have to go back to every time we feel lost. Because that's the whole beginning of everything. It's saying, you know what? I really wanted this. Is it going to be easy? Am I going to have a wonderful life after I make the change? Not necessarily. I've lived it myself many times when I decided to come here to Spain last year. I've been looking forward to come to Spain for at least, and planning to come to Spain for the past 3 years. And pandemic, this, whatever, many things happen. And when I finally made it, I had a horrible time here. The first 3 months were super difficult for me. And didn't make it, the fact that I was planning and wanting to come here for the past 3 years didn't make easier the transition. It only made it easier every time I remember, you know what, this is what I wanted to do. It's just that nobody said the change was going to be easy. Nobody said that I was going to have everything done for me. And because I have the intentions and the decision to move, everything is going to be there, you know, as a gift wrapped for me, right? No, you still have to go through the transition. You still have to create that safe space. You still need to create your own opportunities. But most importantly, go back and remember why I made the decision, because that is the center of the intention that we put to the action and what lighten up the day whenever that day is really not going well.
Absolutely. And I think Anthony Robbins, he is an absolute genius at talking about the human needs and how we all operate out of, you know, the main 4 human needs being love and connection. So we might make a decision, and if it's a like shifting country, wanting to change job, wanting to break up in a relationship, wanting to create new, where you're literally making this massive decision. It comes down to 4 things. Number 1, love and connection. Number 2, importance and significance, that it will help you to feel that way. Number 3, certainty, having that certainty in your life. Or number 4, fun and variety. So, you know, when I'm looking at someone like yourself, who's obviously, you've moved countries, so you're an authority, you've also changed your job. So you know from experience what that's like to go from where you were to where you are now. what would you say to someone out there listening to this that is perhaps at that T zone, you know, where they're at the crossroads and they're kind of looking left and they're looking right and they're going, which way am I going to go? What would you say to them? What would be that element to help them make that decision?
Before, you mean before they make the decision to change?
Yes, like, you know, you get, they're in a secure role, they've got a great pay, but they hate their job, they're miserable, there's things around them, you know, what would you base that on? Because I know, for example, I think what you said before is so important, that you've got to really follow your intuition. You've got to be able to, you've got to be able to, like Richard Branson says, you know, make that decision and just do it anyway.
Yeah.
You know, and sometimes it doesn't feel safe, and sometimes it is a risk, and sometimes that's going to create that. But then if nothing changes, nothing changes.
Yeah.
So what would you say to someone in that position? What would you say to someone who's right in that crisis point? They're really struggling in that inner battle of not being able to make a decision, but they're in fear.
Yeah, well, there is a fine line that separates us from I am where I am and I make this decision, right? And sometimes we feel like it's a huge gap or it's a huge leap we need to make, and it is really not that big. But what makes people make decisions or not make decisions, it depends on something that is really not tangible at all. It's not about results, it's not about planning, it's not about creating a safety net or having enough money to do something. It's about how you're going to be experiencing this and how you see it. And both things that I'm going to be referring to are intangible. One is fear, the other one is faith. There's nothing tangible behind fear or faith. There's no results yet. There's nothing that is actually happening in the present time. In the present time, we are just where we are and we are who we are. Nothing has happened yet. But what makes create that or take that action and make the decision that leads to the action is choosing whether you're going to be living in fear or you're going to be living in faith. If you live with fear, there's nothing happening. There's still nothing tangible there, but you're always expecting the worst. You're always expecting that something is not going to work, or maybe I'm going to be rejected, or whatever, all these fears that we've been talking about, and many more fears that we have no idea that we have, right? But when we change to live through faith, it's still untangible, right? We can still not touch anything or feel anything, but you know it's going to happen. You know it's going to work. No matter what, it's going to work. And this is usually what I turn to, because I like to respect people's timing. As a coach, I believe that my role is to help creating awareness, extract what you don't see, but I'm not the one responsible for the action.
Exactly.
The actions are taken by the one who decided to do the change. Exactly. So it's really funny, and I figured it happened to you as well. There's a lot of clients and people say, thank you so much because everything is possible because of what you did. No, everything is possible because of what you did. Because you made the decision.
They didn't.
I was just there to guide and to see something, but and in order for that to work, as I believe, honestly, as a coach, you have to respect people's timing and not to push the things where the person is not ready yet or hasn't seen what they haven't been able to see or anything. So to me, what triggers the action at the end is when people are finally able to see that they are living through fear or in fear in general or in faith. And when they make the decision to live with faith that no matter what happens, even the worst situation, you need it for something. Even the worst thing that you can imagine happen to me, you know you're going to have the resources to overcome the situation and grow stronger and bigger. And plus, it's going to be on the path for you to actually achieve your goals. That's faith. It's intangible. But you believe. Yes. You believe it's going to happen. That's all it takes. That's all you need. And after that, the decisions are made. And things happen. They just happen. It's a flow of actions and consequences and results that is unstoppable.
I love that.
Yeah.
Something, your fear versus faith. It's interesting that they say that fear stands for the false evidence appearing real. So it doesn't. So it's just in your mind.
It's not there. Yeah.
Something that you believe that you cannot actually see. Yeah. So to be able to have that faith is absolutely, that's where you're stepping out in faith. I love that. And being able to step out in blind faith is even more powerful.
Powerful, yeah.
Yes, so my last question to you, so what would you say to someone who is really, in that situation at the moment in their life where they want to move forward and they're really, grappling with their life. They're feeling unsatisfied. They've got all the signs that destiny is knocking. And like I was saying to you before, when you said at the beginning of the conversation that, there was a moment when you had it all, obviously, you'd done your MBA, you've got all these, you've got the whole world at your feet, and yet you were just staring at the ceiling, wondering, like,
what? Yeah.
You weren't just going to settle for anything. And I love that. You weren't just going to say, well, that's enough for me just to continue on that path. So what I'm seeing in my mind's eye is two boats, right? And you're on one side and there's you staring up at the ceiling. And then you kind of climb up, you go up on top of the deck and you're looking across at the other boat, but there's a gap between one boat and the next. And then you make this decision and you jump. And that's when everything kind of changes, and that's where you are. So what would you say as your greatest secret sauce? If you were going to share your own testimonial about, the greatest thing you did for yourself that meant that your life pivoted for the better, what would you audience?
Everything that you're saying here, it really places me back then, and it is also making me remember literally every single person I work with, and I'm trying to find that common thing, and I think, to be honest, what creates that change, besides obviously the decision, I think the power of decision is what actually creates the action. But in order to create that action, you have to do something first, which is dare to know yourself. Dare to go inside and investigate and to see the things that you haven't been able to see. Because it's impossible, really impossible, to make a genuine change and to become an authentic self if you don't know who that person is. We grew up in every society, because not only because I lived in different countries, but I work with people from different nationalities. And I think as human beings, we have this. We grow up according to what the society is expecting, the impact of, our family, direct family, parents, what they are expecting us to do, because those are paradigms. That's how we grew up, is what we understand is and we become, or we're shaped, not we become, or we're shaped according to something that is expected, and we become that thing later. if we don't dare to break those paradigms and actually go and check, because I always tell this to my clients and my students, the only person who is going to live with you your whole life is yourself.
That's
And
true.
that is not going to change. So it doesn't matter where you go and who you live with today and who's going to be with you. People come and go from life, and some of them thankfully stay for a long time, and some of them thankfully leave also from our lives. So, but the only one who's going to be living with you your whole life is yourself. If you don't take the time to know who you are and to be loyal to that person without judgments and breaking those paradigms, then the change is not going to happen. Or you're going to make little changes, and maybe I'm going to change this job to feel better, or maybe I'm going to change this to feel better, but just little things. There's nothing wrong with that. You can do it progressively as well. But you're asking me what makes to take, what actually creates that closing that gap between where you are and that big change you want to make. That's the secret, is take a time to know yourself, to break those paradigms so that you, whatever you do, you know is authentic. The rest, it creates itself. If you need to do some training, if you need to learn something new, if you need to talk to somebody, and I can tell you something, this is like magic. When you really learn to know yourself and you know who you are and you're authentic and you're aligning with yourself, all the resources start to emerge. The right person in the right time, the right book in the right bookshelf, everything starts to appear. It's impressive. It's like magic. There's no explanation for that, except for the alignment that we have and the vibration that we actually create that is different. But to me, that's the secret. To recap, dare to do the job of knowing yourself, which is, by the way, it's not a job. It's actually a quite pleasing thing when you actually get in agreement with yourself and say, you know what, finally, this is it. I don't care about this stuff. I thought I did, but no, I don't really care about this. And I really care about these things. And this is what I really want to do. Oops, sorry about that.
I know thyself. And remember, you know, when you do the inner work, as Jessica says, when you come to know who you are at your core, you know, that's going to be the most important thing of all, because you can change country, you can change your job, you can change your family even and walk away. But where you go, you are going to take yourself with you.
Yeah.
So, you know, by knowing yourself and doing the inner work, it is magic. And it's like the light that favors a prepared mind. And yeah, so this is so good. So Jessica, if people want to join you, can I ask, do you do mostly programs or one-on-one? You know, what is the portal that you hold people?
Mostly I do one-to-one sessions, and I'm putting together a program that is going to be online in English and Spanish. I speak 3 languages, so I try to put everything in the 3 languages so that I reach more people, but mostly most of the content that I built has been in English since the beginning, and Spanish, which is my mother tongue. And I'll be putting together a program. Probably by the end of the summer, I will be putting a few things together, like all the experiences, all the methods, and all the actual structure that you need to follow, or the steps that you need to follow in order to rebuild your career or transition your career. So that is something that is going to be coming by the end of the year, or the latest beginning of 2023 already. Oh my God. Yeah. And I do one-to-one coaching. We follow exactly the same steps. Obviously, it depends on the objective or the project. But yeah, one-to-one coaching sessions, definitely anytime. They just can reach me through Instagram and on LinkedIn as well. But I figure you have all the links in your Instagram as well, right?
Thank you for mentioning. So we will, if you're watching this on the podcast, you will find the link in that podcast. So we will have that there. And may I say that it is a rare find that, so, you know, that a coach actually offers, you know, so many one-on-one sessions, because these days it's very much held. I tend to do both. So I feel like the group portal, the program, and the one-on-one just makes for, you know, being able to give people the best of the best. So good on you for doing that. And we'll certainly include your link in this. And I certainly believe there's going to be someone out there that is going to hear your message, and they're going to decide that this is what I want to do. I don't necessarily need someone to tell me what to do, but like you have said, Jessica, this is about you facilitating and you helping find that, you know, that coding, that inner spirit that sets you free to be able to make the right decisions. So I just want to thank you so much for offering your time here. And watch this space, guys, because this program is going to open, and I would love to interview you again when that's up and running. And we did have a few little technical glitches, but where would we be without the human, you know, the normality? So
yeah, now we know for next time we're ready, right?
Absolutely, 100%. So thank you so much. And
thank you, Terry.
Yes.
Really, thank you for your time, for the opportunity, and for everybody here in the audience. It has been quite fun to always share these things and insights with another coach like yourself. Thank you very much.
100%. And guys, may I say, if you have a passion that you want to share with the world, you can contact me at terrymessenger.com and book in to find out your zone of genius. Or perhaps you want to discover and dig deep to your life purpose, find out what you're called to do, and discover, you know, what destiny is saying to you. So you can contact myself for that. And you've heard this wonderful interview. So make sure you click the link and get in contact with Jessica. And until next time, we'll see you again soon.
Thank you. Bye.